So instead of asking, what do I need to cut out to lose weight? I started asking, what do I need to eat so my body, especially my thyroid that's giving trouble right now, can actually function optimally? And I knew that when my body would become supported and balanced, weight loss would just naturally follow as a byproduct of that healing.
Welcome back to PCOS Unfiltered. Nourish, heal, thrive. I'm your host, Lindsie, a former ER nurse turned health coach, helping women with PCOS and hormonal imbalances find healing through mindful eating, movement, and self-awareness. Today's episode is extra special because my guest knows exactly what it's like to walk both sides of the healthcare system. Kirstyn Ali is a fellow nurse who, like me, reached a point where she realized that traditional medicine, while powerful, wasn't telling the whole story, especially when it came to women's health, thyroid issues, and chronic fatigue. After experiencing her own health struggles, Kirstyn began exploring nutrition, movement, and lifestyle as true medicine. She now helps women restore balance through her Body Harmony protocol, which focuses on root cause healing for hypothyroidism and hormone imbalances. In this episode, we're talking about what it's really like to step out of the conventional healthcare mindset, the emotional and professional challenges that come with it, and how women like us, trained in science, are learning to integrate the art of healing back into the science of medicine. If you've ever felt caught between your training and your intuition, if you know there has to be a better way to help women truly heal, or if you're just starting to explore holistic health yourself, this episode is for you. As a reminder, the content shared on PCOS Unfiltered is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests are not intended to serve as medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise, or treatment plan. The information shared is based on personal experience and expert interviews and is not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Now, grab your tea, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. Welcome to Kirstyn. Oh my gosh. We have a very similar background, similar story. So I'm super excited for this episode. So let's just kind of dive right in. So can you start by just sharing your journey, both personally, professionally, from, your nursing journey to discovering your path of healing through nutrition and movement and just lifestyle change?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on this podcast. Super excited for what this conversation is going to hold and the insight that you have as well. But really, I've always had a deep passion for helping others live healthier, more vibrant lives. And I was just the kid that loved science so much. I was always completely fascinated by how the human body works, and that passion led me to earn a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, and then I furthered my education to become a nurse in internal medicine. But over time, I realized that, true healing does not just happen in hospitals, right? It starts long before the illness ever shows up, and that realization pushed me towards a more holistic, preventative approach to my own health. So today I'm a certified health and wellness coach, and I specialize in helping women with hypothyroidism and other hormonal imbalances find their balance and their energy again. And my passion really, of course, it came from my expertise in healthcare, but it really came from my own personal struggle. During my first degree, I gained 80 pounds in a year. My grades dropped. I could barely keep my eyes open. And when I looked for answers, I was told to just eat less, move more. Pills were kind of thrown at the problem. And the harder I tried, the worse I felt. So eventually I gave up and decided to find another way. And once I discovered what truly worked for my body, everything changed and I managed to lose 100 pounds. I reversed my symptoms to the point where I no longer rely on medication for hypothyroidism. And now I live that high energy, fulfilling life that we all deserve as women. And I'm able to now show up for my patients as a nurse and for my clients as an owner of a health and wellness company. And that's exactly um, why I'm excited for this conversation too, because I know you're here to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so many people can relate. I mean, I've shared my story throughout, episodes and stuff, but hearing it even from another person, I mean, I think so many people can relate to what you went through. Um, so what would you say with that kind of when you gain the weight and like you said your grades are dropping, was that kind of your like rock bottom or turning point that you would say where you really said something's got to change?
It definitely was. It was interesting how I started because, most people when they plan to start some form of health journey, they'll say, I'm going to start Monday or after the holidays, I'm going to start. And
Yeah.
I had no plan. I remember just waking up one day. It was like a Wednesday in the middle of July in the summer where there's a thousand reasons to carry on and not do any form of health journey. But I woke up and I felt like absolute garbage. I was dragging my body through the mud. My joints were achy. I was waking up after 12 p.m. I felt like I had the flu all the time. And
Mhm.
I thought to myself, like, if I feel like this now at 25, what is 30, 40, and 50 going to look like? Like, it's only going to get worse as I get older. And forever just felt like a really long time to feel this way. And so deep down, I knew something had to change. And, I tried to implement those traditional approaches that I've been told. And clearly they weren't working. And it didn't mean that I needed something that was more complicated, but obviously I needed to do something to tackle it from a different lens. And um, honestly, it didn't start with some grand plan or perfect routine. Like I said, it was just this random Wednesday afternoon when I woke up. But one day I just, I was still living with my parents at the time, and they had this exercise bike in the basement that I had to literally dust off. And I'm obsessed with the show Friends. And so I put on the show and hopped on the bike and just pedaled as I was watching. And after that 20-minute episode, I was like, you know what? I feel I feel a little bit better. I'm going to continue and I'm going to start
Mhm.
nourishing my body as well. So that's really how it all started.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so many good things from that because yes, you just have to take that first step and break the cycle. Like I tell that to all my clients. I mean, I've said it on the podcast before. It's just that one little thing to break that cycle that they're in, I think is super, yeah, super, super important there. Um,
Absolutely.
as a nurse trained in the conventional healthcare system, how did you reconcile scientific training with this more integrative and functional approach?
Right, that's such a good question because it can be a challenge, as I'm sure you can relate to being a nurse as well.
Mhm.
I actually see them more as complementary rather than conflicting. Like my nursing background, it taught me the importance of evidence-based care and critical thinking and understanding the human body from that physiological standpoint. But then over time, what I realized is while conventional medicine excels in acute and crisis care, like in internal medicine or the ER, like where you worked.
Mhm.
It often falls short in addressing why a condition even develops in the first place. Like what was
Yeah.
happening long term to potentially bring them to this crisis, especially with chronic issues like hypothyroidism or PCOS, diabetes, liver failure,
Mhm.
cardiovascular disease, right? So instead of rejecting science, I chose to really expand on it. And so I started diving into functional lab markers, nutrition, of course, stress, root cause healing for my own health and now for the health of my clients. And it's all still grounded in evidence, just viewed from a broader lens, but like still without being so fluffy. People don't like fluff. They like it still backed by science a little bit. So it is really like it is integrating that art of healing back into medicine because it does use both data and intuition to support the person as a whole, right? Not to just
Yeah.
manage symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and I have to catch myself sometimes because I I don't want to say I'm bad. I don't want to bash the healthcare system, but, but unfortunately, the reality is, I mean, I feel like, even as nurses, but physicians, they're trained more, they specialize. And so they're trained on one system when we should be looking, like you said, at the whole body, everything functioning together. And so that is where someone like, us as health coaches can come in and complement, what they're doing, what that patient, that client is doing in the traditional healthcare system. Um, yeah, good points there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Did you ever have any internal conflict, or maybe even criticism from your peers while you were exploring, the nutrition and lifestyle changes that you were and trying to incorporate and navigate all of that stuff?
Right. Absolutely. There was definitely some internal conflict at first. Like we've all been trained to follow protocols and labs and prioritize pharmaceuticals, right? So when I
Mhm.
started healing my own thyroid through nutrition and stress management, part of me definitely questioned like if this was legitimate because it didn't fit the standard medical framework that we've all been taught to follow. But then when I began to see the outcomes of what I was implementing, my doubt began to fade. And something that I've also realized too, and I'm still seeing now, is that many healthcare professionals quietly feel the same way. We're all kind of frustrated by the limits of conventional care,
Yeah.
and we are curious about a more integrative model. So instead of seeing it as being against medicine, I think it should be seen as like evolving medicine, like we're bringing
Mhm.
compassion and prevention and personalization back into care, and obviously the care of our own health as well. Um, but yeah, there still is conflict sometimes, right? Again, it can be a very, very fluffy way of looking at things, but
Yeah.
we do need to look at all systems. And that's where my business name comes from too, like the body harmony protocol. It's not the thyroid protocol because everything in your body needs to be in harmony for things
Exactly.
to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Um, what advantages do you think health professionals, especially nurses, bring to the holistic space versus those coming from the non-clinical backgrounds?
That's another really good question. I think nurses bring something really special. Like we are trained to see the person in nursing school,
Mhm.
honestly, like not just the disease. Nursing is holistic at its core. It is about listening, observing, educating, and supporting someone's healing process on every level when they're in their most vulnerable state. And that lens I think it translates beautifully into functional and integrative work. And because of our clinical experience, we do understand pathophysiology and lab work and the red flags that might show up in our health. So we
Mhm.
can blend that scientific literacy with empathy and real world experiences. And we know how to kind of bridge that gap between a medical diagnosis and the lived experience of that condition. We're not just following a textbook per se.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I think we bring trust. Like patients and clients know we've been on the clinical side. And when they see us, not just nurses, but any healthcare practitioner advocating for nutrition and lifestyle as a form of medicine, it helps legitimize that movement, showing holistic care is an anti-science. It's like it's an evolution of science, really.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I
definitely.
think I think we as nurses, we get into it to help people, I mean, most of us, I would hope that's the case, all of us,
Yeah.
hopefully, but that's definitely why I got into it. And it changed my view of how to help people change, like you said, kind of going back to the root cause. that I didn't feel was being addressed, especially from the ER side,
Yes.
unfortunately. I liked the adrenaline rush, but
I know,
but
but
then
it is
but,
fun, like for lack of a better word, the adrenaline rush of
yeah.
being at the bedside. But then sometimes when you're handing all these pills and pushing all these
Yeah,
meds, you're kind of thinking, this is really not, I always tell my clients too, and what I preach is the hospital is great, but it's not designed to be your first line of treatment. So much
no,
has to come before that. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you arrive at your current framework? Like what were the first changes that made a difference for you?
So honestly, the biggest barrier for me and a lot of people these days is the information overload. Like there's so much
Oh my
conflicting
gosh.
information out
Yes.
there. So
Yeah.
I kept it really, really simple. So it could be something I could stick to. And actually, I listened to your one podcast of adding before subtracting.
Hmm.
And it really resonated with me because I very much took on that same approach. The first thing I focused on was nourishing my body. So instead of asking, what do I need to cut out to lose weight? I started asking, what do I need to eat so my body, especially my thyroid that's giving trouble right now, can actually function optimally. And I
Yeah.
knew that when my body would become supported and balanced, weight loss would just naturally follow as a byproduct of that healing. And so I did start looking at common nutrient deficiencies in women with hypothyroidism. So B12, vitamin D, selenium, zinc were the main ones. And then I also learned that an anti-inflammatory, gluten-free approach would help with Hashimoto's, which is the cause of my hypothyroidism. And so the simplest way I found to bring that all together and kind of dumb it down was a Mediterranean-based diet, right?
Hmm.
So lean proteins, healthy fats, legumes, colorful veggies, herbs, complex carbs, and then it's still actually delicious too. Like I'm a total foodie. Any of my friends and family will tell you I am such a foodie. So like whatever I did had to taste good. Otherwise it wouldn't work. And
Yeah.
so I didn't really start with the fancy lab testing or protocols. Like those all came later. I focused on the basics and stayed consistent with that. And then once nutrition became second nature, I started working on balancing hormones through lifestyle. So stress, sleep, reintroducing movement, like I was mentioning on the exercise bike.
Hmm.
Um, I used to do in my previous attempts, I would do like intense hit and cardio, which completely burned myself out. Like I wasn't going to the
Yeah.
gym at all and then would try going 6 days a week. Like it just wasn't feasible. So
Yeah.
I started small, and one thing I told myself that really helped me stick with it is, Kirstyn, don't go more than 3 days without moving your body in whatever capacity that was. Like that was my rule. And to stay consistent with that rule to myself helped me build discipline. So, I would if it was a walk, it was a walk. The walks would turn into jogs, the jogs would turn
Yeah.
into runs. Eventually, I developed some form of confidence to do low impact strength training, and you know, partly because it's what I felt confident doing, but partly because this was what was best for supporting thyroid hormone levels in my metabolism.
Hmm.
And then over time, I progressively challenged myself, and now obviously I go to the gym a lot more because I love it. I'm addicted to the gym and to working out, which is something I never thought I would say, like honestly. But once all those habits were fine-tuned and I built that foundation, that's when I introduced the comprehensive lab testing, the Dutch test, the full thyroid panels, like the inflammation markers. To do all those at the beginning, it can be good if, to find root causes in that. But if you can't even get the basics down, it's no
Yeah.
point. You're just going to get overwhelmed. You're not going to stick to it. It requires very tedious protocols, and it's meant to fine tune what you've already built.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my framework to first nourish my body, balance my hormones with sleep, stress management, and exercise, and then go into really just healing from the inside out with gut protocols and lab testing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to like get a baseline sometimes, but I mean, you knew something was off, which I think a lot of us know. We just don't
Yeah.
always listen.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so as you were progressing, then you were able to kind of double check that stuff. I do love what you said about, with working out, especially just kind of it becoming who you are, because that's also part of what I talk about with my clients. And instead of saying, yes, I have to have the time or I have to have the money or whatever it is to do X, Y, and Z, or I'll wait until, Monday or after the holidays or whatever, my goal is for them to just make it part of their identity so that it's just, yeah, it becomes a lifestyle. It's sustainable. And does that happen overnight? No,
No.
not even close, right? I mean, I'm sure yeah, you can relate to that. So, but I love what you said, for that part too. Um, how do you prioritize among all the possible interventions, diet, movement, sleep, stress, detoxing, environmental factors? And which do you find kind of often gives the greatest leverage when you're working with clients?
Um, oh, that's a tricky one because they're all so integrated and there's so many pieces to the puzzle. Like there's so many
Mhm.
moving parts that happen at once, right? But I would say with what I call the body harmony protocol, as I was mentioning, which is the framework I used on myself and with my clients, is I always start with foundation first, which means like focusing on what the body needs most urgently to regain stability. And more often than not, that means nourishment and nervous system regulation. So, nutrition and stress management often I find creates the biggest ripple effect when you feed your body the right
Yeah.
nutrients to support hormonal balance and blood sugar stabilization and calm inflammation. Everything else, the sleep, the energy, the metabolism, they start to improve naturally. And then from there, I layer in detox support, environmental changes, which are a little bit tricky again to navigate, but are possible once you have that foundation set. And but if the body isn't adequately nourished or you're constantly in this fight or flight mode, it can't really heal, right? So no matter how perfect the supplements are, like so many people I talk to that come to me, they're so quick to say, Kirstyn, what's the best supplement to be on for your thyroid health? Well, first of all, how are you eating? You
Yeah.
know, like a
Yeah.
supplement's called a supplement for a reason. It's
Exactly.
supplementary to a good nutrition
Yeah.
protocol and a good lifestyle. And
Yeah.
that's what I think a lot of people are missing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. We're right on the same page with that one.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, what exactly are you supplementing? For sure. But yeah, I mean, in general, everybody's different. Definitely agree with you. I know the first like couple weeks of my program, same thing, focusing on nervous system regulation, finding some connections to food that they may not realize are there, and then just starting to really flood the body with nutrients before we even start taking anything away, of course. So good stuff.
Exactly. And I think like stress too, and nervous system regulation, like it's only now coming to the forefront, but
True.
a lot of people, including myself, it's probably the hardest thing I have to work on for myself, but
Yeah.
it's something that everybody underestimates. Everybody underestimates the impact of stress on chronic conditions and chronic illness
Mhm.
that could bring you to the hospital eventually, which you and I have both seen.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just so important to implement, again, those strategies that might sound fluffy, like journaling or meditating. But they're really actionable strategies
Yeah.
to lower your cortisol and get your body in a state where when you're eating and you are having those nutrients, your body is in a position to absorb it and use it at optimal
Exactly.
capacity. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, from working as a nurse, I mean, it's a different kind of stress. And then when we had the gym, it was like a really different kind of stress. I thought like
Yeah.
I was happier because I like was this is my baby and I was doing something I was really passionate about. But yeah, come to find out I was just stressing my body out
Yeah.
even more. Um, until I had to really, excuse me, really prioritize all of that stuff. Definitely. Next question. I love this one. How do you define true healing versus, symptom management? And what would you say are some key pillars to always consider in that?
That is a good question. Symptom management, I think is more reactive. So a true healing is proactive and it's root cause driven. It means asking, why does this imbalance exist? Is it nutrient depletion? Is it poor gut absorption? Is it unmanaged stress, environmental load? And it's addressing it from within. And so, the pillars I always consider are, of course, nutrition. So, giving your body the raw materials for hormone production and nourishment and again, for all your organs to be functioning at optimal
Yeah.
capacity, right? And movement, I would say, is another pillar, of course. And this doesn't need to be any extravagant gym program. It could be just walking outside. People underestimate the impact of just going for a 20-minute walk after your meal, a 10-minute walk
Mhm.
after your meal, and to control blood sugar regulation there. And sleep, sleep is where hormone repair and detoxification happen, that people don't realize. And I always say to my clients too, I forget where I saw this quote, but it was, rest isn't taking your foot off the gas, it's putting fuel in the tank. And I think
Oh,
people
I love
need to
that.
yeah. And I need to tell myself that sometimes because I'm a
Yeah.
person that's always go, go, go. And I struggle to sit still sometimes. So just for that sleep and stress regulation, it's a really good thing to keep in mind. And then one thing that I think is probably the most important is that having that mindset and self-trust. You can't heal a body you're constantly at war with, right? So
Exactly.
when all those pillars kind of align, your body starts doing what it's designed to do, and we underestimate the intelligence of our body. Like when we give it the tools it needs, it can actually heal itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for you, like, how did you know, whether either maybe personally or for your clients, how did you know when you were actually getting into that, true healing versus just kind of managing, or improving your symptoms? So what does that look like either for you or maybe for your clients?
Yeah, so I would say I look at three markers for both myself and my clients. So one marker would be like physiological. So our labs moving towards optimal ranges, not just normal, but better, improved T3, balanced cortisol rhythm, better blood
Mhm.
sugar control, things like that. Inflammation markers is a huge one. Functional would be uh, which is a big one, would be like improved digestion, bowel movements. As nurses, we always care about the bowel movements.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
steadier energy. Like, are my clients needing a nap to get through the day, or are they able to, have the mental sharpness to perform
Mhm.
better at work without having a nap in the day to just get through it? Are their relationships better in their lives with their spouses or their kids? Better cycle health. How's their period? I didn't have my period for like 11 months when things
Wow.
were out of whack, and once it started getting regulated again natural, and
Yeah.
I went off the birth control and all those things and let my body naturally get back into the rhythm it's supposed to be in. That was a huge marker where I'm like, okay, things are kind of recalibrating again. And
Hmm.
then the feeling of embodiment, having that confidence and connection with your body when you do have a chronic condition, PCOS, hypothyroidism, especially like any sort of hormonal disorder, especially that gap between your mind and your body can be so large that you feel this disconnect. And it can be very frustrating when your body isn't doing what your mind and heart are telling it to do. And
Yeah.
that obviously creates an out of body experience. You don't feel yourself, you're not comfortable. And it's just a horrible, horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows that feeling unless they've experienced it themselves. But um, getting rid of that feeling and feeling back into your own body and confident again is a huge marker.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do. I hear that from a lot of women. They don't feel like themselves. They're, whether it's they're more moody, they're more tired, they just know something is off, but can't like figure out what it is. And yeah, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about the exercise, and movement piece, but I want to dive into that a little bit more. So what role did that really play? You said you started off, on the bike, but what role did that really play in your healing journey?
Yeah, it's you know what? It was more of a mental and physical, or sorry, a mental and emotional role rather than a physical.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
in the beginning, it just really helped me get out of my head and reconnect with my body. That's all it was really for. And again, I was just walking or like hopping on the bike to watch friends. And now I honestly move more for the mental clarity and emotional balance. And it's become a way to ground myself and release stress and remind my body that it's capable of these things. It's a feeling of empowerment for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't incorporate a whole lot of, well, I should say really don't incorporate exercise. I incorporate movement into my program. Um, because yes, especially I think in the world that we live in today, we're all behind computers all day long, a lot of us. Even as nurses, I mean, you're still, charting and using a computer all day long. And so we just as a society have gotten, lazier to some aspects. It's just not natural for us to
Definitely.
move. And so, yes, like I do talk a lot about movement. And so, how do you adapt exercise or use exercise and movement into like, your program, especially for those that are maybe just starting off in kind of that fragile, like low energy state? How do you approach that?
Yeah, this one was for sure a challenge for me. I had to completely change my approach to movement and it was frustrating because I would see my friends having a much larger physical capacity than I had. And it made me feel behind and like, why can't I do that? But my body just wasn't responding well to the intense workouts. So,
Mhm.
like I said in the past, I would tell myself, okay, you're going to the gym 5, 6 days a week. And every time I tried that, it backfired. I couldn't sustain it. I hated my workouts. And then I ended up more fatigued and more sore and symptoms were just worse. And so
Yeah.
this time I really had to find patience, which a character flaw of mine is I'm very impatient. So this was a
Mhm.
challenge. I had to start slow and really slow. And again, that rule of not going more than 3 days without moving my body. So that might have meant a short walk or light strength training. Again, super simple.
Mhm.
And over time, those small steps built consistency and trust with my body again. And eventually, I began incorporating more structured, low to moderate impact strength training. And then, as my energy and resilience improved, I was able to progressively lift heavier, which is always the goal with strength training. But even now, I still honor that principle. And I definitely prioritize recovery and mobility
Yeah.
days, which I didn't in the past. And turning 30 this year, I definitely find it's important. I'm feeling it. So uh but yeah, my stubbornness gets in the way sometimes, even in the summer. I was doing a little bit more hit training than I had been doing in the past. And even at this point in my journey, I felt that backfire quite a bit with my hormones and my energy and even my mood, things like that.
Mhm.
Aesthetically, great. I was getting compliments, but I mean, it was just how I felt in my overall well-being wasn't the best. So I knew I had to kind of take a step back and slow down again.
Yeah, yeah. I think it looks different for different people too, right? I mean, I don't know if you see that because some people just may not be into lifting weights, might be more yoga, practice and or maybe even just sticking with body weight stuff, but or more cardio, but I think they have to still kind of honor what serves them or what they actually are into and feel best doing. So, yeah, I don't know if
Exactly.
you see that with your clients probably too.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
yoga is such a good optimal form of movement for that
Hmm.
reason. It strength trains and builds muscle
Yeah.
while preserving your joints and your energy and all those things. So it's
Yeah.
something I highly recommend. And I mean, you can always switch it up. There's no specific
Exactly.
protocol that you have to do in terms of movement. It's whatever you're in the mood to do. There's like in the summer, I do like to go for walks or run a lot more. Like
Mhm.
I mean, you're in Florida, so it's nice all year round, but I'm up in Canada. So in the summer, I'm taking advantage of when
Yeah.
it's nice weather to do more things outside and do more resistance bands or free weights as opposed to going
Exactly.
to the gym. Yeah, it's whatever works for you. The key thing is to keep it in general low to moderate impact in
Mhm.
general. If you want to mix in one hit class a week or something to challenge yourself, great. But if you're doing hit in high intensity all the time, which is
Yeah.
what I eventually found myself doing recently, that's what can kind of backfire for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Especially if you're not giving yourself those recovery days and really honoring the breaks that your body needs for sure. Yeah. Because
Exactly.
I've been there too. I just get addicted to it and jump all
Yeah,
in.
exactly. You want
And
to
then,
challenge and push yourself,
yeah.
and then you're like, oh shoot, that's a
Yeah.
little too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk more about the, kind of stress, sleep recovery piece as well. So, how do you see stress, sleep, and emotional health interacting with the nutrition and movement you kind of touched on already, but how do you see that interacting with someone's healing journey?
Oh gosh, they're completely interconnected. Like
Mhm.
you can eat perfectly and move daily, but if you're constantly stressed, sleep
Yeah.
deprived, emotionally depleted, the body stays in that survival mode and the healing just can't happen there. Like it just can't. And so stress and poor sleep, they affect thyroid function and hormones and metabolism. So again, calming that nervous system is first and foremost will allow everything in the body to start working in harmony again.
How powerful was that? I love talking with women who've walked that same bridge from traditional medicine to true healing. Kirstyn's story is such a beautiful reminder that we don't have to abandon science to embrace wholeness. We just have to widen the lens. If this episode resonated with you, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, and tag us. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. And if you're a nurse or healthcare professional who's feeling the pull toward more integrative work, let this be your nudge that it's okay to evolve. You can honor your medical background and still embrace the healing side of health. You can learn more about Kirstyn and her Body Harmony protocol with the link in the show notes. And as always, if you're ready to take the next step in your own journey, shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to hear your thoughts and requests for future episodes. Until next time, keep nourishing, healing, and thriving from the inside out. You got this.